and other CDC and HHS guidelines to win this thing. We all encourage you to get vaccinated if you're not vaccinated. There are obviously folks who see it a different way, but I remember standing in the lines to get polio and red measles and German measles, smallpox vaccination back in the 60s when I was very young. So this is not a new thing of getting vaccinations. So, but anyway, so we encourage everybody to get vaccinated. So, but we hope everybody is well, safe, and sound, including your families. Um, so somewhat changing gears, prior to the pandemic, we found studies that indicated that driver education or traffic safety education was and continues to be an essential life skill for young adults. And as your programs were shut down last year, the evidence became very clear of the importance of our program to our youth and their families. So, those of you who don't know me, my name is Carl Logan. I am the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction Driver Education Section Chief. Our goals for this workshop is somewhat like this. Some of you may know that I referee college football. I've been doing it for a number of years. This will be my 43rd year in football totally. But every year, excuse me, yeah, every year we have a clinic that we go to, regardless of the number of years we've been working. We go to a clinic to discuss rule changes and get everybody on the same page for constant and consistent messaging. And then each game we have what we call a pregame conference. Well, this is what we call our Department of Public Instruction's workshop to kind of give us a pregame or a preview of what's going to happen for the year and make sure that we are all disseminating the same and consistent messages. So, a little bit of an orientation about this this workshop is that it's geared to be about 2 hours long. There's some time that's factored in here for question and answers, and I hope that we get some questions. As you know, that in the past we've had 5 regional meetings. Excuse me, these regional meetings have been 5 hours long. So we're going to attempt to squeeze 5 hours of information down into basically 3 hours. We've got a 2-hour session today and the approximately 1-hour session tomorrow, even though it's been listed as 2 hours. It's most likely a 1-hour session tomorrow. At any rate, you'll hear me say quite frequently throughout the presentation, but about goals. But a goal for this workshop is to provide a high-level and transparent overview of the state's administration of the program, and also give you some expectations of the General Assembly and a firsthand expectation of what it is that the local boards of education are, what their role is in this whole program. We want to provide you a glimpse of how the program is integrated with the national and state traffic safety plan and provide you an opportunity to ask questions, obviously, as just said. This session is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. Also, on Friday, we will make this PowerPoint presentation available to you so that you can use the links that are included in the slides as quick resources for you throughout the year. A little bit of a I guess a definition change. This past year, we started referring to the LEAs, the local education agencies, as the PSUs, and those are public school units. So this is a shift at our agency. So we'll refer to you as PSUs instead of LEAs. Years ago, these workshops were originally geared toward local leadership. However, we found that we have a need to increase that pool of people that we talk to each year, because we have 115 districts, 115 coordinators. There are 9 contractors who contract with 64 counties. We also felt like that we needed to be able to get information directly to teachers. So we've opened this workshop up to teachers. As we know that at the local levels, we know that teachers, excuse me, the administrators get kind of busy, and sometimes the information doesn't get to the teachers. So we felt like there was a good opportunity for teachers to come in and get a good orientation and a high level overview of what the expectations of the driver ed program are. Also, we have non-public school representatives invited to this meeting. Now, so questions during today's session, we welcome all and look forward to those questions. And we'll offer a chat line for you to ask your questions in the chat line, or we may ask you to unmute and then ask your question. We may also provide some opportunities for you to do some polls for us, okay? All right, so moving right along here. This is a high level of our agenda, and although it is very high level, we intend to get down to the nuts and bolts that we feel that will assist you in understanding the big picture. And so to better understand, this is that you better understand your role in the traffic safety education program. And I say traffic safety education program instead of driver education. We're trying to rebrand our program. This is not a tutorial for the driver license permit. This is a traffic safety education program, and any student, whether they will ever be able to get a license or not, regardless of their physical abilities, they will be able to take this traffic safety education program because we are all road users. And if we were in a environment where we could show of hands, we would have to ask you to raise your hand if you were a road user of that day, and of course everybody's hands would go up. So everyone everyone is a road user. So this can impact all of the students at your school. So according to the agenda that we've got this brief overview, which is actually in progress right now, and then we've got to share a little bit about our leadership team and a brief legislative update. But we have entered that time of year where the budget negotiations are underway, so we really don't have a lot to tell you about, but we can tell you that we have been included in both the House and the Senate versions of the budget bill. And but we don't have much more other than that at the moment. Obviously, we are going to our common goal here is to how can we best work together for the common goals of educating kids and making sure that they're safe to and from school. All right. So moving right along here. I actually see if I beg everyone's, I'm going to change the order of our presentation here just a little bit because I just happened to see our state superintendent is on the line, and I am just totally excited to have her here. Having Superintendent Truitt in the building since actually before she took office has been a wonderful. I don't want to say too much, but it's been so great having her in the building and all the things that she's done. She's come in and she's provided opportunities for the staff to have town hall meetings, and I'm just listening to her messaging about the things that she would like to address. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the State Superintendent, Catherine Truitt.
Hey, Carl. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm just popping in. But when Cynthia Taylor sent that invitation to me, I just could not resist. First, Carl, thank you so much for your leadership of driver's ed. And it's so funny, people wouldn't think that there could be anything controversial about driver's ed, but over the past several years, every time we have a legislative session, every once in a while, driver's ed becomes very controversial. So thank you for your leadership. And as a parent who has had 2 children go through driver's ed in Wake County, through Wake County Public Schools, thanks to all of you for everything that you do. There is a special place in heaven for people who teach driver's ed. So very, very grateful for all of you. And I don't want to take up any more of your time, but just thank you for participating in this training session today and getting this update. And thanks for all that you do. And I have no doubt that you all are going to be very busy this year because of backlogs and pandemic related issues. So hopefully you won't have a bunch of angry parents on your hands. And if you do, you send them to me. Thank you so much and have a great session with Carl.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Truitt. You're welcome to stay as long as you like. I'm about to go into the state board goals and objectives and show how driver education is integrated throughout the fabric of the educational process. So, so you're welcome to stay on. You're welcome to share any other information that you would like about the whole, all of education within the state of North Carolina, if you'd like.
That, I so wish I could. And once you get me talking, you'd have to give me the hook to get me off stage. I am sitting here with my friend and colleague, Rob Taylor, who is the Deputy Superintendent of Student Support, which includes transportation.
Yes.
And so we actually have a meeting that we have to get to. But
Okay.
but thank you for that invitation. And Rob, you want to say anything to the crew?
Hey guys, just thanks for the participation of the last several days. Carl, thank you for your leadership. And I think Superintendent Truitt has said it best that we couldn't do this work without you guys. And we hope you take these updates and continue to improve the program. So glad to have you guys on board.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Taylor addressed the group yesterday and shared with us as well. So it's great. I just thank this leadership team so much. And I know you guys got to get off to another meeting. So thank you for dropping in and
it's our pleasure and honor. Thanks, y'all.
All right. Bye now. All right. How about that? That's directly from the top. While we're on that note, Dr. Taylor is the deputy superintendent over at where driver education is housed, and in the district operations division. And he shared with us yesterday, and it's great having someone who was a superintendent, and he was down in Bladen County, so we stole him from down there, and he's provided some great leadership and is a huge advocate of driver education. And yesterday, I kind of gave a shout out for Dr. Taylor to Jordan Driving School of the Carolinas, or JDS Carolinas, who was the contractor down there in that county, and he had nothing but great things to say about that program. And so you never know where people are going to end up when you teach their kids or when they are in leadership in your particular district. So that's been a huge shot in the arm and gave us a leg up with Dr. Taylor's mind there. Also, I'll tell you what, excuse me just for a moment. If I may take a moment of personal privilege here. Many of you remember the former director of school operations was Dr. Ben Matthews. After a short battle with a rare form of Lou Gehrig's disease, he passed away this past July the 28th. And in true Dr. Ben fashion, he checked some boxes on his bucket list, including riding in a Ferrari just about a week before his passing. But he left his orders with Dr. Harvey, myself, and the rest of the division chiefs. And after his retirement, he was still assisting with making partnerships for this program. The updated curriculum will have some information surrounding railroad notifications for broken down vehicles that are in there that I promised him that we would put in. But he left us in great hands with Dr. Lynn Harvey. She's no stranger to local schools, as she was the school nutrition section chief for many years. And Dr. Lynn is also a huge advocate of our program, and we often comment about all the sections in our division that if anything goes wrong in our areas, it is felt by the entire district. And so she may be able to pop in. She was in a meeting earlier, but she may be able to pop in and say a few words. But Lynn has always been a wonderful, wonderful support for the program. So That being said, let me back up here to get back to where we were, and that I don't know if I've stated it yet, but we are greatly disappointed not to be able to take our annual journey around the state to actually see the faces and experience some of the teachers and students that we serve. So when I was a coordinator in Charlotte, I always wondered what those people in Raleigh were thinking about. Now I wonder what you all are thinking about. So I still love observing the classrooms. And so next year we'll target a location or a central location that's inside um, the state map that you see here. These are the 8 state board regions, and we will try to target a central location in each one of those regions. We usually start in the east or the west and work our way one way or the other. And that's over a 2-week process. And if you look up in the northwest district, excuse me, northeast district, district number 1, we have been to Martin County, but you see Bertie or Washington or central locations in that region. We also go to Division District 2, and New Hanover has been graciously to host us many years. But also we have Jones and Duplin and Onslow that are kind of centrally located. So those are target areas too that we may be able to uh, meet in those particular areas. Hope County, excuse me, Cumberland County in Fayetteville has hosted us for as long as I can ever remember. Wake County hosts the site, Greensboro, Mecklenburg, Caldwell, and Haywood County. And we would look to obtain spaces in those particular areas. However, you can go to any regional meeting you would like to. We also would like to try to open up next year, and obviously with the COVID takeaways, we're finding out we can do a little bit of things with technology and open it up to um, teachers as well and other stakeholders that may not be able to physically get to the meeting, but at least tune into one of them. So we look forward to getting back out on the road next year and coming out and visiting you all. So kind of an overview of this program. We have been in a, I would say, a major, and if I use the term that the legislature used a few years ago, uh, and a renovation or a reunification of the program. It's become somewhat fragmented over the last 30 years. And by using the 2015 assessment and the national standards as our guide, that's how we're attacking this, and using even a technical assistance from the Association of National Stakeholders in Traffic Safety Education. But basically, we have 4 different models of the program. We've got in-house models, and then we've got the contracted, and we've got the contracted who are district provided vehicles and contracted provided vehicles. I guess depending on how you look at it, that's really 3 different models. But we're going to continue assessing the statistics and try to become more of a support and provide guidance for the 115 districts. We've got some that are very well organized, and we've got others that obviously the size of them doesn't cater to someone at the local level being very involved with the program. So we want to provide some support to those districts to kind of bring everybody closer together and so we can accomplish our goal. There are 2 methods of teacher certification, and we're going to cover that tomorrow. But we have the STEP program, that's DPI Safety and Traffic Education Program, and then we also have the DMV certification program. Like I said, we'll take a deeper dive into those tomorrow. And Cindy, I heard some folks back there. Do we have any questions so far? Not?
No, no questions.
Okay. Well, I'll continue on. According to statute, several years ago, well, I should back up and say this, that the legislature decided that not only was driver education a needed program, but it also required that we had a dedicated person in charge of driver education at the Department of Public Instruction. In addition to that, a year later or 2 years later, they required that we have a staff of people to handle the program. Some of you may have been around prior to or around 1990 or so, where there was a staff of 6 people at DPI. There were 4 administrators and there were 2 administrative personnel. The structure of our office now is more, a little bit more detailed and a little bit more structured than that. What we have now is I'm the section chief. Obviously, we have Tanya Easterwood, who is our project manager. And I've often said about educators have the most ideas, but are the worst at implementing them. And so by having a project manager on staff, we have been able to accomplish some monumental achievements in this section. And we'll highlight some of those in just a few minutes. Cynthia Taylor, who is in the background there that makes this whole thing work, she is our program coordinator. And Cindy, when I ask her sometimes, I said, Cindy, exactly what do you do? And she says, I do everything, boss. But anyway, so, but it's a joy working with Cindy. Cindy was, I guess, a coordinator of a local program, a large, very large program, and where she handled personnel and financing and a little bit of everything. And so having her skill set at the Department of Public Instruction has been a huge achievement for us to be able to get her here. Dr. Amelia Royster Davis is our learning coordinator. She is responsible for all of the student curriculums and the teacher education curriculum. And of course, we do have 2 subject matter experts, 2 retirees, Reggie Flythe and Angela Stevenson. They are serving primarily for our teacher education program. They have together, they have well over 60 years of experience in teaching and teaching driver education. So having them to help train our new teachers has been a real shot in the arm for us. So moving right along here. So some of the accomplishments of our team. We've obviously collaborated with the COVID response team last year in reopening of the schools. It was a tremendous amount of work that went into that. And we also, well, I'll tell you this, our team, our DPI traffic safety education team was, every single member on there was selected to serve on the national standards work groups. And that is just unheard of, to have us involved in something that's that important to our state and to the country. So our kudos for them for being so well connected and understanding the needs for the programs at our level and across the country. Also, we have provided a pathway for 150 new teachers by creating the STEP program over the last couple of years, and we've just completed the pilot for our new student curriculum. Both of those we'll cover more tomorrow during that session. We recently just came back from the annual American Driver and Traffic Safety Education Association National Conference, where we shared our teacher education program, and it got rave reviews. We just got those back a little bit ago. It said everyone that we received excellent notations of our presentation out there. We also had several states that wanted to take advantage of it. At the moment, we can't do that, but we're looking to see how we may be able to assist other states in that particular area. So just to let you all know that that you folks are being very well taken care of by my team, and they don't like for me to brag about them, but I do every chance I get just to embarrass them. Also, we have the Driver Ed Advisory Committee. The purpose of it is to advise and make recommendations to the State Board of Education through DPI. It is our objective to make sure that we are transparent at everything we do. Our team makes recommendations. We send those through the Driver Ed Advisory Committee. They make tweaks and whatever, and make recommendations that we can send on to to the State Board of Education. Some of you may have heard me say this before, but I will say it again, that about 3 years ago, we submitted over 40 changes to current state board policy, and they were all accepted without question to the State Board of Education. So this is a very, very functional committee, and that you have a voice at that committee. There are 4 people that are directly serving large LEAs that are in-house, and 2 in-house and 2 contracted counties are represented on the committee. On the left-hand side of this slide, you'll see that there is a general statute, 115C, 215C. This is a statute that states that we must have a driver education advisory committee. And then the link down there, ADVS, tells you more about what the functions of the committee are. Next Tuesday, we have a Driver Ed Advisory Committee meeting. On the agenda so far is a discussion about the updating of the North Carolina Administrative Code, and it's actually a DMV Administrative Code where the superintendent should be signing off or approving the curriculum for the commercial schools. So we look forward to hosting that meeting next Tuesday at 11 o'clock, and it will be a virtual meeting. We had planned on having that meeting in person, but due to the recent upticks of the COVID variant, then we decided that, and also that our presenter is going to be remote, so we didn't feel any reason why we should be in the building for a remote presentation. The committee meets on the 3rd Tuesdays of every August, November, February, and May, unless the chairman decides to change the date. So you can depend on seeing those notifications come out, and we send a direct notification to our local coordinators on that as well. Some of the future considerations that the committee needs to, that we would recommend that the committee to discuss are obviously new administrative code and state board policy revisions. Also, we know that vehicles are changing. We have ADAS vehicles, electric vehicles, the technology with smart roads. Obviously, with the COVID recently, we've been able to teach some by remote education, even though it has a lot of drawbacks to it, but we can talk about those things later. Teacher eligibility, driving records, and physical assessments. There's a need for us to require districts to do that. So those things will be discussed in those meetings down the road. So a little bit about, as I stated before, our legislative update. We don't have a whole lot that we can share with you at the moment. The Senate Bill 105 is the Appropriations Act. As according to statute, driver education is included in both the House and the Senate budgets. And there was a request by the Department of Public Instruction for additional monies to be able to fund the student curriculum project, and also a regional support project that we use the superintendent's regional support project as the model for that. Our goal there was, or is, to be able to provide better support throughout the state in administration. The good thing about having this many bills introduced to go into curriculum is that the legislature feels that driver education is a needed resource to be able to disseminate correct and accurate information to our general public. Although the ones that are in red there are still in Senate rules, and that was the Hands-Free Act, which was introduced back in January, zipper lanes, and the railroad uh, notification system that I mentioned before, and the driver eligibility. Each one of those are still being discussed, although they are still in Senate rules, and you can see where they are. Also, Senate Bill 522, Driving into the Future. This dealt with an online um, provision for driver education, which um, we as an agency did not endorse that. And so we don't know where that is going to go, but driver education should be, um, we just feel that driver education should be managed by teachers and not have the online component to it. Um, Down there at Senate Bill 69, you'll see that the DMV licensing requirements, which decrease the amount of time that a student needs to keep their learner's permit from 12 months all the way down to 6. However, that will sunset on December the 31st of this year. If you were to click on SL 2021-24, it will actually take you to the bill where this is stated. So once you get the access to this PowerPoint presentation, you will be able to click on that and read exactly what it says. This picture of North Carolina is last August, when this is how far we've come since COVID. On the restart, as I said before, this is from August the 28th, 2020. This is what our state looked like. The green counties are the ones that had the behind the wheel and the classroom had started at that time. And obviously red is the ones that had not started. But since then, this is what we look like today. All districts have restarted. And the yellow counties there are actually were a test group using our new student curriculum. And we have received rave reviews from it. And hopefully we can get that out to give everyone access to it sometime, hopefully, if we get our wishes from the budget bill. Regarding COVID, I thought I was in a presentation a couple weeks ago, and this was a presentation by Dr. Catherine O'Neill from LSU. She's an associate professor of clinical and medicine, infectious diseases down there. I was surprised that, well, I'm not surprised. There are a lot of people who push back on vaccinations, but obviously the statistics show that where there are high vaccination rates, there are low indications of infections or people going to the hospital, I should say. And obviously there on the right, it shows the ones counties that don't have high vaccination rates. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist, and I tend to follow what is being told to me. I also saw this. I thought this was interesting, that this might be a good resource for your teachers to show exactly how the mRNA vaccines work. And once I heard the presentation done by Dr. O'Neill, it's like, okay, I understand that. I couldn't explain it, but it does make sense to me. And basically, I mean, you're introducing a proteins um, into the body. If I'm saying that right, I'm not. I better back off from that. But you're introducing something in the body that makes your body mimic having the virus, and it starts to create a method to fight off the virus. Now you've got a head start. The truth of the matter is that we heard this was that everyone will come in contact with COVID-19. Everyone will. And everyone will come in contact with the variant. But it's how well will your body be able to fight that off was the key to me. And I like any advantage that I can possibly get. So that is my little um, sidebar on getting the vaccine. But some of the takeaways that we've had from COVID-19 was that some districts found that they had more opportunities to teach the classroom by using remote or blended instruction. So one teacher can actually teach more than one class a day, as opposed to the 3 to 5 block that you have normally. Now they can teach even the 7 or a 5 to 7 or 7 to 9 block. And it actually frees up some teachers and increases the number of kids that you're sending through the program. But obviously, I know that the backlog is in behind the wheel. So we know that you will manage those accordingly at the local level. So we ask you to continue the local and state health guidelines. We've got some places where you can get some accurate information here in just a minute. But the behind the wheel safety protocols, I heard from a district the other day that they were going to continue the behind the wheel safety protocols even after COVID, because it just made sense that where you've got students that are sharing a space or sitting in a space where someone else was sitting, and they're going to be touching the same controls, and they may touch their face and contract a cold, a flu, or anything. So some of the districts are stated that they were going to continue practicing those safety protocols post-COVID. This is the slide I was telling you about. This is very important. We are a safety program, specifically driver education. But where do we get our messaging? And we want to share with you where you can get accurate information regarding COVID-19 that your teachers can practice for themselves, their own families, as well as disseminating it in appropriate situations in their classrooms. If you click on any one of these after you get access to this presentation, it will take you to those web pages. So, but we encourage all of your teachers to disseminate accurate information and not personal information regarding the pandemic or regarding COVID-19. It is important that we get accurate information out to everyone. And that is my commercial for, because I am a representative of the Department of Public Instruction. I want to make sure that everyone is disseminating the correct information, especially our local leaders and our teachers. Changing gears again, the driver license offices are open again. They're open for walk-in service. Appointments are highly encouraged, and that walk-ins are accepted based on spacing and staffing considerations. There are offices that are open on Saturdays. Space is dependent on how many people they will let in the offices there. They also have online and virtual services, which are highly encouraged. They can do renewal, duplicates, and you see on that list going down there. Here's a major change: the services. Eye checks are an option again at the license office. We realize that some of your school bus and traffic safety people may be a little bit behind, or you may be there. Well, the way I understand it, I think they have almost 20 vacancies across the state, which has taxed the driver, the school bus and traffic safety section. So, if some of your kids may miss the representative when they come out, then eye checks at the license offices are an option. Okay, all right. A little quick commercial about the Real ID. As you on the left-hand side, you'll see that the Real ID goes into effect May 3rd of next in 2023. We have been assisting the driver license office in getting getting a Real ID for students by the driver eligibility certificate is a acceptable record, as well as their birth certificate. So that gives them two opportunities to get a Real ID. It allows you to get in government buildings, get on a plane, or other locations. They're not required, but they are very helpful. I've flown many times, and they would see that I have my Real ID, and I just jump right on the plane. All right. Regarding the STEP cohort, We started a new class of teachers and mentors on Monday this past week, and it is 3 phases, and then they will be a practicum. And we also have the program lasts approximately 17 weeks. I will go more into detail about this program tomorrow. However, I did say that I've said before that we lost 400 teachers from 2014 to 2017. We had to do something to help fill that void and the shortages in a lot of those districts. So this is an option, and this option will also give your teachers a what we would call a license a license dedication of 096, which is equivalent to a 4-year college degree in driver education. So those teachers who may have gone to the East Carolina program or the A&T or the Appalachian State programs, the teachers who finish this program will get the equivalent recommendation from our office. And those teachers who are licensed professionals, excuse me, those teachers who do not have a professional license, then they will receive what we call a restricted license to teach driver ed only. And they are allowed to get the same pay rate as the professional licensed teachers. Administration wise, this is what I was talking about with Superintendent Truitt was on the line. The State Board of Education has 3 goals, and obviously you see those there. And to break those down a little bit, each one of these goals has objectives and components to them. Driver education should be woven into the fabric at the local level. The State Board of Education's goal to improve the school climate across all schools and grade levels. And obviously, driver education has impacts safety at the high school level. The component 2 is to increase the opportunity for healthy habits in students. And obviously, we are a safety program, and we teach safety in a lot of different areas, specifically road safety, but we are in the safety business. Objective 6, increase the numbers of educators of color in schools across North Carolina. We decided to do a quick survey, and we found that of our 1,326 teachers, 839 of them were white, and then we had 355 of them were African American or Black. The interesting thing about that statistic is that 10 of those counties, or less than 10 of those counties, actually have 50% of the Black or African American teachers. Hispanic teachers, there were 7. There's only 18 Native American teachers in our districts. All of those are in one district except one. So 17 is in one county and 1 in the other. There are no Asian teachers and 1 other, and then there were 6 teachers, 106 teachers that did not specify. In tomorrow's presentation, we're going to do a presentation from, or do a little clip from Leandro versus North Carolina, and it talks more in detail, more in depth about why this is important. And at the very top level is that students learn best when they find that, or when they see people who look like them in those administrative and teaching positions. And we'll just leave it at that for the moment. Objective 1 and goal 2, we're going to try to figure out ways to get financial, business, and technology resources according to state and federal laws. This is not, or anything dealing with technology is not a driver ed initiative. This is a state initiative. This is a State Board of Education initiative. So we're going to do our best to try to get it integrated with the fabric at the local level with and by employing the goals of the State Board of Education and the General Assembly. And our goal is to do this without increasing costs to the local districts. There are ways of doing this, to do this. Objective 1 in goal 3, increase the number of culturally relevant and equity focused resources for teachers. Our new curriculum has took this in consideration when we were creating it. So that will be a checkbox for us. We're very proud of this, and we hope that we are able to get this in the hands of all the teachers very soon. Objective 2, increase the number of mentors available. Our goal is to have at least one mentor in every district in the state. It is a when the teachers take the STEP program, if they've been a teacher or then there are certain instances where they can become mentors, and they can. It is an allowable expense for you to have someone in this capacity at your local level. So we want to mimic those practices that are going on in other areas of education, and so that we are no different than any other discipline in the schools. Cindy, how are we doing in questions? Any?
No questions at this time.
No questions? All right.
Nope.
All right. So here's another feather in the cap of the staff at Department of Public Instruction, is that the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction is truly leading the way in teen traffic safety education. And among their many accomplishments, the establishment of a digital platform for teen learning and teacher education is innovational. I regularly reference the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction as having done more than any other state agency to implement the novice teen driver education and training administrative standards, or the national standards. And we are leading the way in traffic safety education. And Brett Robinson states that it is a pleasure working with the DPI team, and I'm proud of them as well. Brett Robinson is the Secretariat of the Association of National Stakeholders in Traffic Safety Education, who works very closely with NHTSA. So that puts us really, really high up there. In 2 weeks, I will be going to the U.S. Department of Transportation and working with NHTSA on in a symposium of state leadership. And we will be discussing emerging issues. And if you were at the recent ADCEA conference in Knoxville, Tennessee, we had a panel discussion which discussed emerging issues. The issues that were brought up at that meeting and other meetings will be taken to our symposium there in Washington, D.C. So just like that meeting, these regional stakeholder meetings were designed to get immediate feedback from you all on the challenges that you have, or the things that you felt like, or you feel like that we should be looking forward to, and creating pathways or policies so that we can continue to building our program. I may not have said it before, but we have shifted from reaction of trying to keep the program to proactive in what can we do to serve all of our students and the general public. And so I am very proud of our DPI team for their accomplishments. Mentioning national standards, oh, there it is. I got ahead of myself. So we have had technical assistance over the years. We've collaboration of our peers from other states, and this is the roadmap basically that DPI is following to reunify our program, as I used in the first couple of slides of this presentation. We want to reunify the program, and this is how we're doing it. And we feel like that it's going to be the best for the program as a whole, and all of that should factor down and filter down to the grassroots level, where the students and the teachers are in the classrooms and on the open road. As far as program administration is concerned, the General Assembly obviously has enacted laws requiring driver education. And the NC administrative code goes a little bit more in detail. GS 115C-215 and 16 outlines the requirements for the program. And in somewhere in here, the next few slides, I will go with a little bit more detail, or I'll refer back to these as we go forward. But you can click on those links and it will give you the law or the administrative code that districts are to follow. The State Board of Education and the superintendent, we organize and administer the standardized program, and we provide funding or we actually filter the funding, and we provide oversight and support. And it is our goal to be able to do that without delay. And so we want to be able to find out what it is. How can we best serve you? That is our goal. How can we best serve you on that? And we want to ensure that everyone is administering the program according to the guidelines set forth by the State Board of Education and the superintendent. And obviously, at the local level, you're responsible for your own administration, whether it is in-house or contracted. We'll go more into a little bit into detail in that in just a few minutes. Also, in the general statute, it states that we must have a strategic plan, which is in need of updating at the moment. But it outlines the goals, the expectations of the General Assembly, including performance measures. We will be, or actually, we're moving in a direction to where we can measure our districts, and that we want to be able to provide you an opportunity to see how you stack up against other districts, to kind of let you decide what we need to do differently, or are we leading the pack, or are we at the behind the pack on these expectations. So that is something that we've been working on for quite some time. The data that we are collecting is helping us to determine what those things are. But some of the things that are listed there in the strategic plan is the number of participants that you send through your program. A few years ago, we had discussed at the the advisory committee meeting that we felt like that kind of 70% of your students should be the goal of the number of students that you serve each year. But we really need to get to a better consensus, because there are indications that students are waiting longer to take the program. And so would that be a good indicator if a program is serving the students or not? I don't think so, but there needs to be some way that we can help districts to determine what the expectations are. In the strategic plan, it talks about a standardized curriculum, which we have created. We're just waiting to drive that car out of the garage. I keep referring to it as a car. And the expenditures for the program. Cindy and I, we are constantly looking over the expenditures of the program for each district. We find that that we can provide some better options for districts. One of the things is that there are 10 districts, less than 10 districts in our state that could actually fund the entire curriculum project and the regional support project, and that there are districts that we feel are overpaying for these type services, and they shouldn't have to do that. So how can we service those best, and then also help to serve those smaller districts who don't have the revenue to be able to provide the necessary items for the program. One of the things that has been a sore thumb to the Department of Public Instruction, but I think that this is about gone now, is that the legislature thought that, well, the success rate of students passing the written test at the license office, this is not a good indicator on whether the program is successful or not, or is doing what it's supposed to do. We actually found statistics that indicated that our students, our 15-year-olds, had the same fail rate or pass rate that anybody else taking the written test. So that's not necessarily a good indicator. We also found this, that over 16, 17, 18-year-olds, the older they got, the less the passing, the lower the passing rate was. I thought that was quite interesting. The older the students got, the worse they did on the driver license test. Don't know why that could be. But anyway, that is something that we're going to continue looking at as we work with the Division of Motor Vehicles. So the mission statement, we're going to develop and administer a high quality driver education program, a high quality driver education program. And if it were up to me, I would change that to a high quality traffic safety education program to ensure that all drivers are provided with an opportunity. And so we're going to do our part to working with the stakeholders in the state, Governor's Highway Safety, UNC Highway Research Center, Child Fatality Task Force, and others on making our roads safer. The vision statement, DPI is incorporated in cooperation with the stakeholders. We're going to do our best to serve you all and the youth of North Carolina. All of these things will be looked at as we look forward to updating the strategic plan. Yesterday, Dr. Taylor was on the line and he alluded to this, but the communications, the data collections, unless we come out personally to your district, we really don't know what's going on out there. And you really don't have any other way of determining or telling us that you're doing what you're supposed to do to administer the program. So the data collections are huge, are very, very, very important. And so the communications to and from the districts has been a challenge and is getting ready to change again. So the way that you are that you are submitting your quarterly reports is going to change from what we're being told. We're fighting to hang on to what we've got, but that is most likely going to change. We'll let you know when that does come about. But the quarterly reports tell us this, and that this is something that we know from the agency level, is that one size does not fit all. And the only way we can determine what's best for one is not best for the others is that our experience from our staff is that we understand what the differences are individual in the different districts out there. So when we look at a stat, it may be alarming in one sense, but when you take in consideration what's going on in that particular district, you understand. But at the same time, there are districts that have found ways of providing the program at a cheaper level, but the districts don't get a chance to talk to each other. It is our responsibility to help disseminate that information as we get it. So we are very happy to be able to share that information to other districts. And as I just mentioned a few minutes ago regarding COVID, a lot of districts have found that they can save a little bit of money by, they could maximize their teacher resources by teaching online, or one teacher's teaching more classes per day than what the 3 to 5 time period offered. So the quarterly reports that we're collecting are the student participation, year-to-date comparisons, and I think that we have that slide here in just a few minutes. The big one is the cost per student. This was one that was mentioned in the budget bill of 2015. How can driver education decrease the cost per student? And in our statistical data, it shows that right now we have an average of about $313 per student is what's being spent, because obviously you're not teaching all the kids, but you do spend money on other areas. What should be the mean? We don't know what that is, and does it fluctuate? Some years you may buy vehicles, years you may not, and that will cause your cost per student to fluctuate some years. So we realize that those are the kinds of things that we have to study so that we can do some intervention at the local level. You all know that. Let's move forward here. Miss Cynthia, could you elaborate on this data that you've collected from the districts?
I can. So the first graph here shows the fourth quarter behind the wheel classroom data from 20 to 21, and then 2018 to 2019. Obviously, the 2018, 2019 was pre-COVID, and then the 2021, we've been operating under the COVID protocol. So we collect data, as Mr. Logan said, from all districts on a quarterly basis. So it provides insight on the status of each program. This graph in particular shows how the progression has been made as far as the numbers trending in an upward way versus last year, where we struggled a little bit to get the programs restarted and things like that. So you can see, as an example here, the number of classroom students that we taught this past school year was a couple thousand more than what we taught in the pre-COVID year of 2018, 2019. So that and the behind the wheel number is close as well, as you can see here. So just some promising data. Mr. Logan, if you'll flip to the next graph, that graph is a 3-year comparison of the last 3 years. So obviously the last 2 years, the programs have operated under the COVID-19 restrictions, and you can see here that the student numbers are trending back to normal figures. So we know our districts are working hard, and this data is just really encouraging as we see the programs get back to normal.
So that is encouraging to see, and that is something that we can report favorably back to the legislature, that our districts have turned it around and are working very hard to get caught back up. So that is wonderful news. Thanks, Cindy, for what you do with that. That is a massive amount of information that comes in, and when I look at it, I understand it, but I don't know how Cindy put that chart together. It's 115 school districts, and I think there's about 25 categories that her data goes in. It's like each one of those cells has its own formula. It's like, just tell me when you get done. Thanks, Cindy. I have some great news, folks. This past Monday, we now have a new budget code for local leadership. 6110 is the purpose code, and basically what it does, it provides an opportunity for you to pay local leadership out of driver ed funds, support development services of a regular curricular program of instruction to provide students with learning opportunities to provide for and achieve personal health and career objectives. The budget code, the object code 113, can include a salary of a person assigned to direct and supervise staff members, a function or a program or a supporting service. So this code can be used for instructional support as well as central office directors and supervisors. We do have the ability to audit these and make sure that these funds are being used for driver education services. So, but this will enable districts who have supervisors there to use that. We're hoping that this will encourage those districts who have not traditionally been very active in the driver ed program to become more active, being that they are allowed to pay some of the staff member salary using driver ed funds. So we'll continue monitoring that and moving forward. But this was a big, good change for us. Regarding local boards of education, so the program excuse me, getting ahead of myself again. The state board policy, Drive 004, has the requirements, and I don't have it linked in there yet, but I will by Friday. The highlights of the requirements are program availability. Your program should be readily available throughout the year. It is available to all public, charter, private, and homeschool students and federal school students. Homeschool students are required to show you a form that they printed from their homeschool login site. So students should be registered to go to school somewhere in the county or in the district. Homeschool students, the only way they can show that is that they must have that form that's printed out from Division of Non-Public Education. Your district is responsible for the time of day that classroom and behind the wheel is being taught. That is up to the superintendent or your local principals. But there is no restriction on what time of day that the classroom and driving can be done. The local boards of education is also responsible for the location of the classroom. However, it does state in there that this should be in a educational environment, and that classrooms located in a cafeteria or in an auditorium or in a school foyer or wherever, those are not considered normal classroom environments. There is a maximum size of 50 students, but your district can set the size of those. The State Board of Education actually pushed back on the idea of 50, and we had to negotiate with them to get them to 50, realizing that 35 is more of a workable number for any teacher. Also, the curriculum requirements, which still presents a challenge to us, are located in the requirements as well as teacher certification. And that is a Drive 003, which lists the teacher certification requirements. We will be diving a little bit into those as we move forward. One of the questions was, number 2, what does good moral character mean? And that was one that kind of gives everybody pause. What does that mean? And so we will be looking into that. Also looking at hopefully adding in there that districts should have a way of checking for physical abilities for those teachers that are going to be on the road or doing BTW work. They should meet a certain standard for physical abilities or physical fitness. Regarding contractors, the 16 NCAC on the left there, that is the administrative code that's been in existence now for 30 years. Local boards of education may enter into the contract. They should be awarded on a competitive basis. And if they're going to contract with a company or an entity, they must be licensed by the Division of Motor Vehicles as a commercial school. However, a contract can be issued to an individual. So a district who has an in-house program with in-house teachers, they can contract with those individuals, and those individuals may be those individuals may or do not have to work for a driving school, which presents a problem for us, and we'll cover that more on Thursday. But contracts shall specifically state that any contractor is to adhere to the administrative code that I have listed here in this document. And so on the next page does the same thing. And Cindy, I heard a little bell ring. And do we have a question out there?
We do. Mr. Sessoms asked, what is the current position and best advice from DPI on a student who lives in a district but is taking virtual academic classes in another state?
That is a good question. Because of COVID, and I'll say prior to COVID, that student is not enrolled in a classroom in your in North Carolina. Therefore, that student is not eligible for driver education through the Department of Public Instruction. They will need to pay for it on their own. However, we have been faced with a huge number of students who in addition to being enrolled in their district, they were taking classes remotely. What we have been working with is that in this case, we almost have to leave it up to the individual districts to make the determination on whether the student is still enrolled in their district or not. If the student has withdrawn, it's easy. But if the student is choosing to stay home and be educated at home, and but just taking a remote course somewhere, this is an issue that I've discussed with Division of Non-Public Education, Dr. Shanae Flood, on this. We have a new student who has evolved, and we don't know quite how to handle that at the moment. But so I guess the short answer is the district should determine if the student is enrolled in a public, private, charter, or homeschool within your boundaries. If they are not allowed to take the program. Mr. Sessoms, I hope that answered your question.
I will let you know if he has a follow-up question, but that's all questions in the chat right now.
That is a very good question. That is something that kind of evolved here in the last year and a half.
Yeah, that helps me a lot. And in a parallel issue to that, because I live on the border, right near South Carolina, I get that same scenario. Kids live in this district but go across the state line to a private school. But you answered it when you said, if we can determine that they're not enrolled, then they're not entitled to the program.
Yeah. Which brings up, I guess, the rest of those scenarios, that the student must be enrolled in a public, private, charter, or homeschool or federal school in North Carolina. They also have to be enrolled in inside your district. There are exceptions to that. There are two charter schools that I know of right now that are degree granting charter schools, that when the students are enrolled in those charter schools, they are actually somewhat treated as homeschool kids, even though they don't have homeschool designations. So, and these two schools are located in Durham County, I believe. And that even though the students are registered for that charter school, they live in your county. But don't confuse that with anything else. It is not where the student lives, it's not their residence, it is where their school is located. So Connie, in your situation, a student who lives in northern Mecklenburg County but goes to a charter school in Iredell County, across the line there, that one just popped in my head because I had some issues with that. That student is registered to go to school in Iredell County. That's where they should get their driver education.
Yeah, I enforce that. I just didn't know if DPI had relaxed because of COVID and the fact that everybody ran to online.
No. So the guidelines are still the same. It's just that you've got an extra bit of digging to do to determine if the student is still enrolled in your county or not. And do not confuse these regulations with driver eligibility regulations. They're different. And tomorrow, toward the end of that presentation, I will go into driver eligibility. So on this particular page, there is a link to the budget planning, and a lot of you like to know how much money we're dealing with this year. although we do not have a settled budget yet, but this is based on the numbers that we've got. And I actually, I don't know if I should say this publicly or not, is there was a mistake made previously, and that's going to be going to be adjusted where it looked like we lost money this year, but my understanding is that was a clerical error, and that would change back. So, but right now we're working with $190.91 per student. That's kind of what we're planning, working with. As I said, you can click on that link and it'll take you to that place where it shows you that. And also, as far as the ADM is concerned, this link, the state planning allotment, will take you to how we determine the ADM at your school. And I think it's taken 3 times, and then we end up with a final adjustment number somewhere in September. So you can see those on that particular link. Teacher salaries. This is a policy that has been in place since 2014, I believe. But the salary schedule is that, I'm going to read this. The driver training instructors shall be paid within the salary range of their pay grade and the job classification based on a 40-hour week. And if the established 40-hour week is less than 40 hours, then you're going to pay the rate of pay that's equal to that 40-hour work week. Okay. This does not apply to contractor employed teachers. It could apply to the person who is contracting directly as a single teacher to the district, but it does not apply to a driving school who is contracting to the district, unless your contract states specifically that you're going to adhere to this, and your county can do that, or your county or your contractor can request that, either one. But it doesn't apply to contractor employed teachers. I got to get that right. So when you click on that link over there to the left, it'll take you to that page and it'll tell you more about that. Driver training instructors are in these categories. You are a DMV certified teacher without a North Carolina license, or you're a DMV certified with a professional license through DPI, or you have 096 on your professional teacher's license. And you see the pay grades those represent. And you go to the salary guide to tell you what the cost per hour is for those particular areas, those pay grades. Those teachers that were employed as driver training instructors prior to July 1st of 2014, those districts may continue paying on that salary schedule, whatever it was before, but they are not required to do this. This is not my words. This was before me. This has been in print since 2013, I think it was. This was one of the first things that the Driver Ed Advisory Committee passed when it was created. And I think I put Mr. Sessoms on the spot. Mr. Sessoms was the chair then. You may remember those conversations and the why this came about. And feel free to unmute if you want to say anything about that, but we can continue moving forward.
No, go right ahead.
Thank you, sir. Regarding fees, this is the statute that states that the fees, every Board of Education may charge a fee up to $65. If you do charge a fee, you must have a process in place to waive or reduce that based on financial or economic hardships. There are districts who use the free and reduced lunch as their process. There are districts who have 10 items on their processes, and the free and reduced lunch is just one of them. So it is up to the local administration on how you do that. However, all I'm saying is that the use of these fees is to offset the cost of training and instruction only. for driver education. It is not to be used for anything else. And this is just another list of our compliance. I've tried to make some slides to where you can use these as resources later on. What I will do back later is I did not link in the Drive 001, the 03, and 04 on this slide, but you'll be able to get to those and the corresponding administrative code that governs those, State Board of Education. And look at this. You folks have been so quiet. I just ran off the scale. I am actually through with everything. Is there any questions, comments, clarifications on anything that we've covered? Again, our goal is to be as completely transparent as we possibly can. Our office is trying to we're actually building an office. There was no office here for 30 years. We've had to create an office from scratch, and the organization of it has been tremendously challenging. Something like driving a car as you build it. I like to use that instead of the plane because it's more appropriate, obviously. But so that's been tremendously challenging. At the same time, we're trying to erase an image of driver education in the state legislature. Some of you were around in 2010, and Mr. Sessoms and Mr. Getty, I see you in here, and you can correct me. I think back then we were close to $33 million in what we were getting per year for the administration of the program. That was reduced by $5 million at least in 2010. And basically it came down to we couldn't prove what we were doing. And there were legislators who thought that we shouldn't they should reduce the funding or actually not fund the program at all. And so we fought and clawed our way back to getting funded. And not only that, now they're seeing that how important the program has been and that we've turned things around and that they're required a staff. We have moved light years from where we were in 2010 with our office there at DPI. So Cindy, with that, there was some music there. Did we get a question?
No, that was just me sending the YouTube channel if they want to rewatch the presentation here.
Okay, all right. So any other questions, comments? Is anybody totally confused? All right, I realize this is a busy time of day at the local schools. Y'all get ready for school, get started back, and I do appreciate you all coming in and listening to this. I realize that a lot of it's repetitive information. However, I have personal experience of rehashing and making sure that everybody's on the same page, and so that we can perform and achieve the same goals. Also, I'm hoping that we will continue making inroads with the legislature, and being that last year that we were able to provide resources, even though it wasn't for a driver ed issue dealing with driver eligibility. We were able to provide leadership in that particular area, even though that's dropout prevention. But everybody, all the way up to the governor's office, whom I wrote responses for, saw how important it was having the driver ed leadership here at DPI. And when I say at DPI, I'm talking about you as well, because without you and your input and your in what you do out there and providing us with information, we can't provide that to above us. And as I said before, you know, my background being from the local schools, it stopped many years ago. So I need up-to-date information on how things are changing, how things are being impacted by all kinds of, of things. So again, I appreciate your being here today, and I hope that you're able to tune in tomorrow for the education section of this, where we'll be talking about the Leandro lawsuit with equity in education, and the teacher ed, the student ed, and the driver eligibility, and anything else that you may want to talk about. So with
Mr.
that,
Logan,
yes.
so since you do have a minute, don't be careful now. Don't give me the mic. But since we do have a minute or so and we've got a captive audience, can I do a commercial plug for the NCDTSEA conference?
It will only cost you just a few bucks.
All right. Well, I got $1.
I am. Go ahead.
So the NCDTSEA, the State Association Board, met yesterday and talked a long time about a lot of things. And end result is that we are, as a board, agreed to move ahead with the conference in September 17th. It's a Friday, and the 18th, which is a Saturday. We plan to move ahead with the in-person meeting. Had a good long conversation with the hotel management, and right now they are not under any restrictions that would keep us out. We will have the big room. There will be plenty of room to be socially distant. The membership right now is about 170. So there should be plenty of room to operate in that environment. But I just needed to say that if some folks haven't registered yet, there are just a few days left to register at the same price as we've advertised, which is $40 for your membership, $120 for the conference, total of $160. We'll accept that for a few more days, and then I've got to give some numbers to the hotel, and after that, we need to have everybody in that's coming. But if you haven't registered, consider it. If you have some folks that want to come, send them. And Mr. Logan has said before, this is a justifiable expense out of your budget to send your teachers to a conference like this. But the main message, we are having the conference. It will be in person as of today. Now, the governor could come out with some restrictions later, but for right now, we're going to have the conference in September 17th and 18th at Clemens. Thanks.
You want to tell them about, I can't get the chat thing off the screen there, but I just popped it up on the screen. If you go to the ncdtsea.com website, you can register there. Is that correct?
Yes. You can register online, or you can print the registration form down, fill it out, send it with a check like you've always done. But we did put the registration, we attached it to a PayPal account. If you wanted to use a credit card, you could do that this year.
Okay. That's good information. And is it the CEUs for it will be what?
1.2. Now we've in years past had the early bird option, and if you participated in that, we did that back in April. April 24th, I think it was. We had the early bird online. That's closed. So the most you can get out of this one in September is going to be 1.2 hours or 1.2 CEUs or 12 hours.
Okay, that's good information. Thanks, Connie. Anyone else? Any other questions, comments before we close out? If not, thank you all again, and for what you do. And you have a huge responsibility out there of educating our 140,000 students. We do expect to provide you with some updates on how and if the data collections will change. But I hope that it doesn't. But if it does, then we'll make adjustments. That's what you do at the local level is you change, you adapt and overcome. It's kind of like the Marines, I guess. So anyway, great not seeing you all, but I hope that we can do this in person next year and move back to getting more information from you all. And thanks. Talk to you all later.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Cynthia.